This is our next video in consumer equilibrium and market demand. When we take a look at the societal demand curve, what we're essentially doing is taking individual demand curves and adding them together. So as an example, we have two individual demand curves for an individual named Paula and Beth. If we look at the effect of price on their consumption, we can tell that if the price on Paula's consumption, if the price of the hamburgers are $2, then she's going to go ahead and purchase a single hamburger. If the price of hamburgers for Beth are $2, she's not going to purchase anything. So when we add them both together, Paula's 1 versus Beth's 0, we get the demand for the market of just one hamburger. And as price falls a little bit, if the hamburgers are $1.50, then we can see that Paula would like 2 hamburgers. Beth would like 1 hamburger. And when we take the 2 and the 1, we can see that together the market is demanding 3 hamburgers. If the price of hamburgers continues to drop down to $1, we can see that Paula is going to want to consume 3 hamburgers, while Beth consumes 2, and the overall societal piece at $1, 3 and 2 is 5. So to create a market demand curve, we are essentially taking the individual demand curve, combining them, and that tells us what society would like to purchase. Now that we understand the societal demand curve or the market demand curve, there are 4 main factors that affect it. We already understand how own price, the price of an individual product, affects the demand for that product. We've said as the price of hamburgers goes down, the demand goes up. So the price of an individual product does affect its demand. It's also true that other prices affect demand. If you are going to the grocery store to purchase hamburger, and as you walked over into the meat counter, you saw the price of chicken. Wow, that chicken's really cheap. That chicken is so cheap. You know what? I was going to buy hamburger, but the chicken is so cheap, I'm going to spend my hamburger money on chicken. So the lower price of chicken, because it's so cheap, can cause your demand for a hamburger to change. So other prices will affect your demand. In addition, we already discussed how your income can change demand. As you have more money, typically the demand of your normal goods goes up, while your inferior goods goes down. So income and wealth has an effect on your demand. And finally, taste and preferences will have an effect on individual demands. You're fine. No, take care of whatever you want to do. Almost done. I hit pause when if I don't hit pause, then I notice my videos get longer and longer and longer. So I hit pause, I change the screen instead of so it keeps
smart.
it.
You need to check a couple of those because there was some loud noise in the background.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
I mean, you're tooting.
Yeah, but I hit
There were
pause.
two big ones. One of them, I'm not sure. This is the real big one. I think you're on pause, but the first one, I'm not so sure. You might want to check it.
Maybe, you know, that's teaching the students how I'm just like one of them. Maybe. Or maybe I'm worse. There's a cartoon in today's recent California.
What's happening?
You showed me too. Yeah, asked me to look at a.
Oh, your emails are just populating. It seemed
Yeah.
like things were moving all around. I don't know which one I sent it to.
I thought I had all the links fixed, but it hasn't come in yet. I have all my emails open.
Okay, it's nothing important.
It'll populate eventually.
Okay.
Mailbox, get on the mail. Was it a big file?
It was my dissertation from Walden.
Okay, a big file. Unless you sent me a
It's just a Word document.
okay. How many pages?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
It may take a couple minutes for it to go through.
Okay, all right. Well, we can go back to your thing.
Almost done. In this case, we can see that demand curve D1 shifted. The entire line moved to D2, and we would call that a change in demand. The lines moved. It's a change in demand. There has been a shift in demand. In this case, an outward shift in demand. However, if we're discussing about a movement along a single demand curve, it goes from point A down to point B, we would call that concept a change in quantity demanded. So as you read through our information and study for the test, recognize that the difference between a change in demand and a change in quantity demanded, and understand the differences. And finally, we're going to discuss a concept of consumer surplus. Everywhere along this demand line, we can see people were interested in purchasing products at different quantities all around that demand line. So when a price reaches equilibrium, and in this opportunity it's at point C, that's a price that gets locked in. And although that's a price that got locked in, we have to remember students were willing to purchase at $7 and $8 and $9 and $10. So this blue triangle at the very top is the consumer surplus. It's what consumers were willing to pay, but they didn't have to. So when prices decrease, the price of the product goes down to point E. There is certainly, as prices go down on a normal product, there is an increase in consumption. But now we have a different triangle. We have a larger triangle that shows that we have a greater level of consumer surplus. So as prices go down, there's more consumer surplus. So a change in price, as it decreases, surplus gets larger, and as it increases, surplus gets larger, And as it decreases, surplus gets smaller. And if you were of the mind to calculate the change in consumer surplus, and you probably should be of the mind to calculate consumer surplus, all you have to do is use the area of a triangle equation, which is 1/2 base times height. In this case, on the orange triangle, it is 1/2 of the base of 5 times the height of 5, or 1/2 of 25, which is also equal to 12.5. And if we looked at the green triangle, it would be 1/2 of the base, which happens to be 6, times the height of 6, which is 36 divided by 2, which is now 18. So we can see that there has been an increase in consumer surplus, and if you were curious, how much did consumer surplus increase? That's pretty easy to accomplish by taking consumer surplus. It was equal to 18 minus 12.5, or a change of 5.5. So it increased by 5.5. So consumer surplus is indicated by a price change. And again, the lower a price becomes, the greater the consumer surplus.